You found us. You did. It's Emil. Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to the Secret Podcast. If we're on before 2 o'clock Pacific Live, I think we are. We're about like a minute before. Then this is the Lanyap. That's what they call it in the Bayou country. The Lanyap. You're getting it. You deserve it. Just for if you're in California, you're trudging out in the rain. Maybe you got a pile of mud on your front step or in your driveway. Man, it's a mess. NorCal, SoCal, NorCal, SoCal, all Cal. It's all wet. And I'm in my closet dry. I was going to go down to SoCal today, and I said, no, I can't do it. My boat isn't big enough. I mean, first of all, you'd need a boat because everyone's hydroplaning. And anyway, I'm in the safety of my COVID closet here with you. Emil Amok, Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. There are a number of things. Before I get to them, and if you're watching us on YouTube at Emil Amok 1, if you're seeing us on Twitter at Emil Amok, if you're seeing us on Facebook, fb.com/emilguillermo.media, or on Facebook somewhere, well, you know, this is show 647. We're going to talk about the Grammys. We're going to talk about Olivia Rodrigo, her disappointment. I think this is going to be the inspiration for a whole new slew of angst-filled songs. Before it was like the right guy being stood up or, you know, whatever. You know, the driver's license, right? Or, you know, she's driving past her old lover's door because she's got her driver's license now, but they're not together. You know, she's moving on. Now she's going to talk about the disappointment at the Grammys or something. I mean, this is the thing about you catch a young artist and they're all about themselves, expressing themselves. And now, what is the biggest angst she must feel right now? Like, I did this album and no one likes me. Your fans still love you, Olivia. I mean, really. And I only talk about Olivia Rodrigo, and it's not that I only care about her because of this, but she's half Filipino on her father's side. So I feel like she could be my daughter, right? Her mother is white, her father's Filipino. It's one of those rare kind of Asian American kind of things, right? Where usually it's the mother who's Asian, right? And the father is white. Case in point, baseball players like Tim Lincecum. And others. Joe Coy. Mother Filipino, father white. I mean, that's the way it is. But Olivia Rodrigo is my kind of Filipina. Father Filipino, mother white. There she is. Big star. And I know she must be feeling a kind of disappointment that she didn't win. I mean, she was up against, so I'll talk about that today. I get going talking about Olivia Rodrigo because she, you talk about representation, you talk about diversity. She's a unique diversity story and an important one among Asian Americans. Okay, I talk about that. I'm going to talk about Tom Cotton's new Red Scare. I mean, he's like whipping up a frenzy of scary stuff about Asians, asking Asians if they're communists. Going to talk about that. Going to talk about the rain. Going to talk about my friend Joe Madison again because I noticed that the New York Times did a big thing on him. And I don't know if people really know Joe Madison. So he's probably going to have a private reception and funeral at some point in the next few days in Washington. And I just want to honor him by letting people know the kind of guy he was. As I say, he was my friend. We worked together. My regret is that we weren't closer friends because we were fighting for the same things. And sometimes you lose sight of that. Anyway, welcome to the program. Like I said, we're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific live, generally. And if we're not live, then we're recorded, right? But we're here. We're here. And before I kick off talking about the topics I just outlined, I do want to talk about the shows I do live in person, because this is a talk radio show, right? I'm just getting up here talking, no punchlines. We're having a conversation. The ideal way to listen to this is as you would, say, in a news talk show. I mean, if you're on the right, you say, oh, like the one that Rush Limbaugh did, only the jokes are on the other side, sort of. Or you might say, or like, see, all the talk show hosts are so conservative, right? Except in the old days, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they tended to be just conversationalists. They go on at, generally speaking, the best ones run at midnight. And they go on till 6 o'clock, and they do things like read poetry to you. And like there was a guy named Ray Taliaferro on KGO. All you insomniacs, you remember Ray? I did a semi insomniac shift for a while on the old KSFO in San Francisco when I was on between 10 and 1. So I got some insomniacs, but for the most part, I think I put people to bed. And then I did talk shows in Washington, D.C., and that's where I met Joe. So anyway, I do this kind of show where we provide insight. We tell you the news, provide some insight, news talk, right? But I do these other shows where I actually tell stories that are mildly entertaining, even funny, with punchlines. And you should go see them. I've done them all over the country: Washington, D.C., New York, Baltimore, San Francisco, San Diego. And I'm going to do a show in Fresno on March 2nd. I know you're saying, Emil, Fresno? Really? Well, if you're in Bakersfield, that's not a bad deal. Get to upgrade. Go from Bakersfield to Fresno. Or if you're living in Danuba, hey, you're right there in Fresno. It's an upgrade. So I'm doing the Rogue Festival, which is the Fringe Festival of Fresno. The Rogue. It's on March 2nd, 2 p.m., and then again at 9:30 that night, then March 3rd at 2 p.m., and then Thursday at 5:30 p.m., and then the following Saturday, March 9th at 5 p.m. So those are the times I'm at the Rogue Festival. If you're close, nearby, check it out. It's at the Lotus Room, part of the Rogue Festival in Fresno. Go to their website for tickets. Then in April 5th, 8th, 13th, 19th, and 21st, I'm going to be appearing at the New York City Fringe under St. Mark's Theater. So that's in April. And then I'm in May, I'll be in Orlando at what I call the Big Daddy of American Fringe Festivals. As I said, in the spirit of Edinburgh and part of the North American Tour for Fringe Artists, Orlando Fringe Festival, the largest theater festival in the United States. I'll be there in May. Dates are still to be announced, but toward the latter part of May, it's Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Please come see me. So those are shows I do. And then one more show I want to announce. It's a video or an online show, a taped reading of Ishmael Reed's Shine Challenge. It's interesting. If you know the story about the Titanic, there's a story that's gone around in the African American community about a guy named Shine who was a stoker and was a survivor of the Titanic. And his story is explained in this new play by the great poet, novelist, playwright Ishmael Reed, The Shine Challenge 2024. It's going to be presented by the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. Go to nuyorican.org for tickets. Sometime later this month, February 17th, 18th, around there. But I'll have more details as they become available. But it's an online performance of the Shine Challenge by Ishmael Reed. New play. I have a small part. I'm good with those small parts in Ishmael's plays. But, there's no such thing as small parts, just small actors. And it's funny. It's anti-speciesist. Speciesism being the prejudice or discrimination based on species. It's surreal. It's funny. And it's part of African American legend associated with the Titanic. Why, I would want to see that for an hour and 15 minutes. Nuyorican.org is the website to get the tickets. I'll have more details about that. Ishmael Reed's The Shine Challenge. Okay, so shall we talk about the Grammys? I thought the Grammys last night, first of all, I wasn't going to watch because what do I know from music, right? I mean, music is dominated by rap and Billie Eilish right now. Everyone wants to sound like Billie Eilish. And if you're slightly more refined and glammed up, you want to sound like Taylor Swift. Everyone, even the guys, everyone is kind of breathy, that breathy sound. And I like it. They rhyme. It's cool. I'm into it. But I don't listen to the radio for music, and I don't, I go to Spotify, I go to Apple Music, and someone says, "Hey, have you heard this?" And I say, "Oh yeah, great," and I'll listen to it. Lately, though, the good thing about Apple Music is you can just say, "Hey, remember that song that Herb Alpert did?" And they say, "Oh yeah, they used it in the dating game," and you go into. So I've been looking up old stuff. So, oh yeah, that was used in the dating game. Oh, that was used in the T-Berry Shuffle and the gum, the chewing gum. So for historical purposes, I've been checking out, music. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to watch the Grammys. I got sucked into it. First of all, Olivia Rodrigo, the Asian American, Filipino American pop star supreme. I mean, she swept all the new artist and best record, best pop, best, all those albums a couple of years ago. Now she's back. New album, Guts, which has the song Vampire. And if she was going to sing that, the joke was, how is she going to, there's a swear word that she uses, and she has to, how is she going to cover that so she doesn't get blipped out? And it was the GD word. So one time she cut out God, and another time she said GD, another phrase. And so anyway, that was a kind of an insider's thing for Olivia Rodrigo fans. But she performed last night at the Grammys. They had that weird blood scene, bloodletting kind of scene where things were flowing, and I was wondering who's going to clean up after that. It was kind of exciting. She sang it well. I thought usually she performs that song from a piano, but here she was just standing. I thought she was good. Like I said, because I knew she was nominated in all the major categories, I wanted to see her, and I root for her. I have to admit, you root for her like you would another Asian American, Filipino. How many of them get nominated except for people like Bruno Mars? And then I started noticing all the other Asian Americans or Asian half. They're Asian Finnish, I think, or Asian Icelandic, Chinese Icelandic. That girl, I forget her name now. She just goes by some odd name. But she won, but not in a televised award. So this is the thing about the Grammys. They don't televise all the winners. They had people winning in the afternoon you didn't even know. They just won the awards. I won earlier, but this is like the big, just album of the year, record of the year, song of the year, best new artist, best pop vocal album, best pop solo performance, best pop duo group, producer of the year, songwriter of the year. And so these were the categories, right? The big ones that get on TV, and they no matter how much they cut it down, it's like a 3-hour show. 5:30 to 8:30. Thank goodness you can watch it on AARP time at 5:30, and then watch the early feed. The poor people on the East Coast have to watch it, in real time. It goes on at 8:30, ends at 11:30. Then they're ready for sleep. But so this one was on for the West Coasters. It was on at 5:30. So it was interesting to see Olivia Rodrigo compete because, as I said, she won a couple years ago. She won all the big ones. She really made a splash with Sour, the name of the album, Driver's License, the big song. She comes back with Guts, this new album, and she's just as popular. And this one song she does, Vampire, I think has to be one of the catchiest pop songs ever. I would have to say it's right up there in terms of hook, bridge. You want to define pop song like you will, as you look or analyze it, as you would look at a timepiece, as you would look at something mechanical. My God, that thing was, if you analyze Vampire, you see the moving parts and you see how she blends it and smooths it out, and it's a masterpiece of pop. Don't take my word for it. Other producers, other people who follow pop and know the difference between pop and rock, they'll tell you, nothing like how old is she? 21, 22-year-old Filipino-American girl from the suburbs of LA. So every single category she was nominated for. Album of the year for Guts. Record of the year for Vampire, the song. Song of the year, once again, for Vampire. She wasn't qualified for Best New Artist because this is, I think, her second or third year. Best Pop Vocal Album for Guts. Best Pop Solo Performance. Best Pop... it was... She's not Best Producer of the Year, I think she had one. She didn't get Songwriter of the Year. But you look at that list and you say, oh my God, she's nominated in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories, 6 categories. Shut out all of them. And, Album of the Year went to Taylor Swift, of course. And because of that, she has won more than people like Frank Sinatra. She's in a league of her own. Olivia Rodrigo, she was there. She was nominated, but didn't make it. Record of the Year, that went to Miley Cyrus for Flowers. I might have given Miley Cyrus Best Dress, if you saw her dress. I'm not sure. Best Dress or Best Tattoos. I'm not sure. But Olivia Rodrigo was in a Versace. It was classic. She was dressed to kill. And this wasn't the prom. This was, and she didn't get Record of the Year. That went to Miley Cyrus. Song of the Year. She was up for Song of the Year against Dua Lipa, John Batiste, Lana Del Rey, Miley Cyrus, SZA, Taylor Swift, and Billie Eilish. And I thought maybe here, Song of the Year, they give it to her for Vampire. She got to sing Vampire at the Grammys. But it went to Billie Eilish for What Was I Made For, which I'm a Barbie fan. I'm a Barbie. Great song. Once again, Breathy Eilish, which I think I like Breathy Eilish better than Breathy Swift, but Olivia Rodrigo has a breathy quality too in her voice, and a little bit of a lisp. Maybe she had some kind of dental instrument in her, orthodontics or something. I'm not sure. But she didn't win Song of the Year. Now, Best Pop Vocal Album, she was up for that. She was up against Kelly Clarkson, Miley Cyrus, Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift. Best Pop Vocal Album. Olivia Rodrigo Guts? No. It went to Taylor Swift. So, I mean, she's like offering it all over the place, and they keep going to her. They have her sitting right up front, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I feel for her. And she's sitting next to, they had her sitting next to Lenny Kravitz, who I love. I love Lenny Kravitz, but, you know, he's old enough to be her father. She needs someone, you know, she needs a shoulder to cry on, maybe her dad, maybe her Filipino dad. I would have gladly have been a seat filler. Anyway, she lost her Best Pop Vocal Album. And then she was up for Best Pop Solo Performance. And I thought, oh, now this is where she'd shine, right? She's up against Billie Eilish, up against Doja Cat, Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift. Oh my God, all the big ones. Olivia Rodrigo? No, it was Miley Cyrus, Flowers. And if you think about it, I hope she takes a lesson or a note from Miley Cyrus, who got up and won her Grammy and said, look, I've never won a Grammy before. And I've won a couple in one night. And she said, look, here's the thing. I was good yesterday. I felt I had a beautiful life yesterday. And the message is, you don't need the Grammy to validate you. I thought that was a nice message. I mean, it was a nice message. You know, there was a camaraderie among the girl singers. Of course, you know, it was pointed out more than once that this was like a gal's thing, right? The women were dominant here. And rap and R&B and country. It was women who dominated the show. Trevor Noah, who I thought was the host with the most. I mean, he was, if you want to know how to host an award show, this is the way to host an award show. You limit the number of awards. You present all the awards no one cares about off screen. Streamline the show. And even when you streamline the show, it's going to go long. You know, the monologue is filled with some jokes, but mostly it's just to honor the people who are there. Not like in the Ricky Gervais style, but in the, hey, there, you're here. Welcome. Hey. And look, we're not going to make fun of Taylor Swift and, you know, all the shots on the NFL, but every time we mention Taylor Swift, we're going to go to a football player in the crowd who actually has played football. That was kind of a funny reverse. And they showed Terry Crews, who played football. I forget for whom, but he did play pro football. And so, you know, it was a nice way of getting into the show without alienating anybody. It was fun. And, you know, usually I like comedy that has a little more. But, hey, it was just, we're here for a good time. And Trevor Noah he can be good time guy. He can also be hard ass, you know, about the news. But he's mostly good time guy. Or he knew how to do good time guy last night. So he was perfect as the host. So between, you know, knowing that you're going to have one of the, you know, that women were dominant, and you were going to have either Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Miley Cyrus, or Olivia Rodrigo going up there to accept something. I mean, it was can't miss show. Can't miss show. So I watched the whole darn thing. And I was hoping that Olivia Rodrigo would win once, right? She didn't. Didn't win once. And I'm just putting it out here for you, Olivia. Because I know you're watching, right? I know you're watching Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. Because if I'm going to talk about you, you're great. You don't need the Grammys to validate you. You're going to feed on this, and you're going to write songs about being a Grammy loser, and that's going to get you best pop vocal next year, the next album. Really, I mean, this is a setback. You're a young gal. You don't want to talk about big setbacks like, lost a lover, lost, whatever. But losing a Grammy and how that feels. There's a song there. There's a song there. I'm just saying. So I look forward to that. Because this is what happens to artists, right? This is what happens to artists who are expressive. They talk about their setbacks, and this is a setback. Going over at the Grammys when you had a song called Vampire about bloodsuckers, and here the bloodsuckers have sucked you dry and left you with nothing. This is a good one. Some good songs. I predict some good songs coming out of that night for Olivia Rodrigo. So some of the other things that I noticed about, I thought Billy Joel was good. They really hyped that and they saved him for the end because they knew old folks like me would want to see Billy Joel at the end. It was okay. And then Joni Mitchell singing her song that was covered by Judy Collins that people know more, both sides now. I was a Joni Mitchell fan from, I think I was 17. And I think I was in France. And I think I was sitting in a park in Paris, France, thinking of the news, and it sure looks bad. Reading Rolling Stone, reading Vogue. Yeah. The Blue Album, right? I mean, I love the Blue Album. Taste of You, California. And wouldn't you know, I went to France that year and I listened almost constantly. Someone had the Blue Album on cassette. We listened to that all the time, and it was like, oh my God, the Blue. Because I was from California. Everyone else is from New York, but when she sang that, it made me why would I be homesick on vacation? So anyway, so I love Joni Mitchell, and all throughout my radio career, when I played records, Joni Mitchell was great. Loved her. And it was kind of sad, but also triumphant to see her sing at 80 and to know that she is the same age as Joe Biden. And I don't know if Biden could sing that well. Maybe, I don't know. Trump, but that was triumphant for Joni Mitchell. That was good. Everyone's talking about Tracy Chapman. I like that. Fast Car. Ooh. Loved it. And Annie Lennox with her ode to Sinead O'Connor. That was good too. Oh, and then Stevie Wonder and the funny little eerie seeing Tony Bennett sing with Stevie Wonder on video. But this is the thing when you're recording artists, people don't die when you have them on record or you have them on video. People just live on. They just live on. So I just want to give a shout out to some of the other winners that you didn't see because they weren't on, like Best Rock Performance, Arctic Monkeys, Black Pumas, Foo Fighters, Metallica with their, they got the Filipino guitar player, Hammett. Lux Eterna was nominated for Best Rock Performance, but no, they lose out to, and I just saw them that yesterday night, Boy Genius, another breathy Eilish kind of sound. And they were dressed up in their, suits, white suits, looking good. Boy Genius, 3 women, not strong enough, one for Best Rock Performance. That was one noteworthy thing that I'll mention. SZA, I'm glad that SZA won. Boy Genius also won Best Alternative Music Album. And I'm just glad that I was able to finally get someone to show me how to pronounce SZA. Anyway, all you got to do is watch the Grammys, and then you're caught up, and then you say, oh, why don't I listen to all this stuff? Why don't why? Well, you can get it. You can get it all. But you have to, Spotify or whatever. Apple Music. SZA featuring Phoebe Bridgers won Best Pop Duo Group Performance. By the way, she was nominated in a bunch of them too, and she did not take home the big ones, but she did win that, and she did get to perform. So it was a good night for SZA, and no, it's just fun. It's just fun to watch the Grammys. I'm glad I watched, and here I am. I'm talking about the Grammys almost exclusively for the majority of the show so far. But it's good because it was a good show. I mean, did you like the Grammys? Did you like the Grammys? Sometimes I feel like, hey, I was telling a friend of mine, I still look up Beatles songs on Apple Music. I still look up like I was saying, I was looking up Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass the other day. But this is one thing that young people or people now have that they didn't have in the old days. In the old days, you would have to guess what they were saying. You didn't know what anyone was saying on their songs. There was like, what the hell? It's about love. All I know is I like the beat. I can dance it, but I don't know what they're talking about. And now, because you have the lyrics available, you can say, oh, they're talking about that? Oh, my God. They're talking about a double murder? Or they're talking about... On one SZA song, she's kicking the crap out of guys. I guess that's empowering, I guess. But it shows... Look, I'm on the same side as SZA, I'm telling you. We're fighting the same folks. So much for the Grammys. Today, if you're on the East Coast, you must know that the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, which I am affiliated with, they're having their big reception. And you should go to the website there. I think there's still time to get tickets to go see it or to go be a part of that. I'm not going to be at that reception. I'm going to be at the one in May. But this reception tonight is, of course, in honor of the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year. Can you say Gung Hei Fa Choi, right? Of course, it's weird because just as we should be in celebratory mood, if you go to my ALDEF column that I wrote, aaldef.org/blog, I write about Senator Tom Cotton's shameful racist congressional interrogation. I mean, you might have missed it. You might, because, it's not played on anything but C-SPAN. No one's like showing it anywhere. unless you were a nerd watching the congressional child safety hearings, you would have missed it. But there was Senator Tom Cotton grilling the TikTok CEO, and it was brutal. It was just absolutely brutal. And as I write in my column, you might have missed it because all the focus was on Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg, who is, in fact, an honorary Asian American by way of marriage and the parent of a young Asian American. He was being pilloried for being at the helm of Facebook and doing nothing to help people who have been hurt by Facebook and by the people who go on Facebook and prey on young people. I mean, he was getting it. Chief among the people pounding Zuckerberg was Hawley, Senator Hawley of Missouri, and who actually challenged Zuckerberg to get up and apologize, and he did, to his credit. And that made all the front pages last week. So essentially that pushed everything out of the news, except for that little bit. And it's unfortunate because it pushed out Tom Cotton's interrogation of the guy from TikTok, CEO Shuzi Chu, we'll call him on second reference. But that was an interrogation that I think everyone needed to see. That was the shame. People needed to see that. If you don't see it, go to my column, and I take a bite from C-SPAN of that interrogation, and you can just click and watch it yourself. I mean, Cotton just presented the world with an example of an openly hostile, crystal clear gem of outright xenophobia. If you don't know what it is, if you haven't really seen it or think you haven't seen it, just see how Cotton treated Shuzi Chu, the TikTok CEO. I mean, he came after Chu with this zeal, trying to pin him down as a Chinese loyalist or enemy of the state. It was like Senator Joe McCarthy, not the House Speaker McCarthy, Senator Joe McCarthy of the 1950s, looking for commies, the Red Scare, even using McCarthy's language. This is kind of like the new Red Scare, because you take this hand in hand with the FBI Director Christopher Wray's statements. I also wrote about this on the ALDEF blog at another congressional hearing that was simultaneous to this one, where Wray is warning America about Chinese hackers to our American infrastructure. And really, you have the basis for the new Red Scare of 2024. So, as I said, go to ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog, click on the link, get or see for yourself. But it was a kind of a show me your papers move that Cotton pulled. He asked him what nation Chu was a citizen of, and Chu said Singapore. And Cotton then piled on and said, "Are you a citizen of any other nation? Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?" And it was like, one after the other. And Chu said no. It would have both. Added that he served in the Singaporean military and still holds a Singaporean passport, and implying that, hey, look, I mean, he can't say this. I'll say it. He say, hey, look, I know we look Chinese, but we're not all Chinese. It's not seen one nation, seen them all. And Cotton kept pressuring. He asked about Chu's wife and daughter, like, what relevance? He said both of them are citizens, American citizens. Then he asked Chu if he's applied for American citizenship, as if that's relevant at all. And imagine someone stopping you on the street saying, "Hey, are you a citizen? Are you?" This is at the highest levels of government, a hearing where there should be a little more respect. But here's Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, Republican of Arkansas, going after Chu, who says, "Oh, no, I'm not, I haven't applied for American citizenship." Like, that's bad? Hey, it's his right. He doesn't have to apply. He might want to be a dual citizen. But after he said that question, there was a beat. And then Cotton delivered the McCarthy-esque low blow. He asked this question: have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party? He asked. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party? That's about as point blank a direct lift from a McCarthy hearing, right? Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party? And Chu said, "Senator, I'm Singaporean." "No, I know I haven't been a member." Cotton kept going. "Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?" And Chu was like, he's backed up to the wall. "No, Senator, I'm Singaporean." He was like trying to be cordial, trying to keep his cool. But it was a jaw-dropping exchange, outright badgering, over the top, racist. Unless you're going to ask those questions to every single person who asked that question of Zuckerberg, ask that question of every other person, Zaccarino, who is with the Twitter lady now, or now X, she's the X lady. Unless you're going to ask everyone, you can't ask that. I mean, certainly there are other ways to get it. You don't have to get someone on the record. You can find out to see if it's relevant, and then you could bring it up. But if you know the answer, it's not relevant, then all you're doing is trying to create that racist atmosphere, and that's no good. So this is Cotton last week. And like I said, hardly anyone saw it unless you are a C-SPAN nerd, because Zuckerberg's apology kind of sucked the news air out, and became front page news everywhere. And Cotton's thing became kind of like Asian Americans noticed it. The Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, they noticed it, called it racist. I noticed it, called it racist. Activists I know saw it, called it racist. But you have now a situation where between Cotton's display and the FBI's warning about Chinese hackers at another hearing last week in Congress, the political tone is being set for how Asian and Asian Americans can expect to be treated. That's the significance here. They get away with this kind of thing. And others will do the same. Others will model Cotton. Others will model Ray. Ray was a little different because he put a disclaimer saying, "I'm not talking about Asian Americans, the good Chinese Americans. They're good people, sometimes caught in the middle." Doesn't matter. This is what comes up. A kind of, it's okay to hate on Asian Americans. And it's the kind of moment that politically could lead to loyalty oaths, outright discriminatory treatment. And I say this knowing that these are all sadly recurring themes in U.S. history. This isn't just, oh, well, maybe it will happen. No, it's likely to happen, because this is the way U.S. politicians deal with race, especially when it comes to Asian Americans. This is the way it happens. And it's disgusting. It's just, It's demoralizing because it happens over and over again in history. And you can go back to the Chinese exclusion laws, 19th century, go back to all the exclusions of Asians in America, Japanese, Hindu, Filipinos. Talk about the anti-miscegenation laws. This is a common thing. And that's why it all needs to be called out now, loud and clear and often. Loud, clear, and often. Send tapes of this to your friends. Say, look, here's Tom Cotton. Send the column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Send it to your friends. Say, hey, look, this is happening. We got to be vigilant. This is how it works. Look, frankly, I, Emil Guillermo, have been called a member of the CCCP, the Chinese Communist Party, or at least looking like a member of the CCCP, maybe for my black hair. And I'm Filipino, right? I'm sure it was a joke. People were, oh, you look like you're a member of the CCCP, Emil. But this is how it all trickles down. And it all begins from the racist rhetoric on display in Congress last week. We're in the year of the dragon. How about this? A huge helping of xenophobia in the year of the dragon. That's what we're getting. Let's put Cotton and his ilk on notice that we won't stand for any of this. Asian Americans, I hope there are a number listening to this show. If not live, then recorded. Because we won't stand for any of this. Because we're in America. And we're Americans. We definitely are not going to let it spoil Lunar New Year celebrations in our great country. Get my column, get the link to the C-SPAN clip on the ALDEF blog, Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. And I think there's still time. You could still make it to the reception, the Lunar New Year reception in New York for ALDEF. I won't be there tonight, but I will be, because I'm in California, but I will be at the 50th year celebration in May. And there's still time to get tickets for that. So that's good. All right. So Cotton, man, I mean, it's racist as heck. Unless you're asking everyone who appears for their passport or if they've ever applied for Chinese citizenship. Because, look, if that were a thing, don't think the Chinese would say, hey, look, there's a Chinese guy, let's get him, in our fold. No, they'll look at the white people and say, yeah, let's get the white guy. They're going to do something else because they're spies. They're professional spies. They're not professional provocateurs like Senator Tom Cotton. Up to no good. Up to no good. This Saturday, I saw Saturday Night Live. I don't know what it is, but television is getting funny. I mean, that show is sort of up and down, off and on, but you get the right host and you get some inspired writing. And Io Edeberry, who is, she's from the Bear. She won an Emmy and she won a Golden Globe. So she's really hot right now. She was funny. There are a couple skits. The one on, the whole show was funny, but the ones that she was in, from start to finish, it was good. And the show didn't have to rely on J-Lo being there. You know, she had some kind of hair extension problem. But yeah, Io Edeberry was funny, good. The the most surreal sketches, the one where they're stuck in the elevator, that was, you see, that elevates it a little bit. I mean, you could do game show takeoffs, like why'd you say it? Where you talk about people who are saying things online. You ask them why they said it. You do those games. You have a trivia game where all the blacks are helping each other. I mean, those takeoffs, they're good. They're funny. But the next level was the filmed sketch of the elevator where they're lost, or they're in an elevator that's stuck, and they find themselves going to an elevator utopia. It's just, surreal, absurd, funny as hell, and just a taste of that old Saturday Night Live. I mean, when you would watch it, and it was, I got to see what's on. I got to, the first couple years. I mean, now it's what, like 50 years old or something. But when it first came on, it was like a show that you had to see. You stayed in. You didn't go out. You didn't go out Saturday Night Live or Saturday night. You stayed home. You watched the show. I did it in college. I did it afterwards as a single person. And then throughout my life, I said, oh yeah, Saturday Night Live's on and Sue's on. Good host. Good guest host. The writing's good. Man, can't be beat. And yesterday was one of those times. The other time when I think that when I ask myself what is funny, and sometimes, I'll tell a joke, and it's, it's okay. Is it funny? I mean, like, am I like spitting on myself funny? No, I mean, I will listen to, or watch shows, and yeah, funny. I'll watch, I like to watch old Nikki Glaser things where she talks about sex. So I see, how far I can talk about sex. Let's see how Nikki Glaser talks about sex. Let's see how far I can talk about sex, because I don't look like Nikki Glaser. And then I'll look at, Gary Gulman. I'll look at, all the guys who are out there now, out on Netflix. Oh, by the way, Shane Gillis, who got fired from Saturday Night Live, he is going to be hosting in a couple weeks, which is making me wonder about the efficacy of cancellation, or, when someone protests what someone says, how lasting. I mean, it's almost like a temporary thing. It's like, well, you pay your dues, you go off in the corner, maybe you take a diversity class and then you come back. I don't know. But Shane Gillis, who was fired for making Asian slurs, is coming back. And I'm wondering, has he done enough time? Is he right? I mean, I'm telling you, since I do comedy too at times, I'm just wondering if the proper response isn't to cancel someone, but the proper response is to say, it's just to call them on it and then debate, right? Not less speech, more speech. Not to shut you down and say you're canceled, but to say, hey, you're on notice, talk about it. Because the more we talk about it, maybe we can get to an answer. Maybe we can get to some understanding. But the way we have it now, we got people who act as censors, shutting people down. They go away, they come back, and then it's okay. They walk out and say, hey, coast is clear. Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle. I mean, Shane Gillis now, Tony Hinchcliffe. You talk about the people who the last couple of years have been dinged. And I know because maybe I've been doing the dinging too. Writing my columns. Say, you can't do that. You can't say that. And maybe now I'm a little different because I do sometimes perform comedy. And maybe I'm understanding that, okay, maybe the right response isn't to totally shut someone down, but to put them on notice. Actually, I didn't fire Shane Gillis. I didn't say he was fired. Just say, hey, look what he said. And Saturday Night Live, they made the decision. Oh, he's not going to work for us. So I wonder what kind of sketch Shane Gillis will do with Bowen Yang. Because Bowen Yang, he's kind of become the everyman at Saturday Night Live. You need a Filipino? Bowen Yang. You need a white guy who is, a little effeminate? Bowen Yang. You need someone to play something that's, nondescript, gay person, straightish. Bowen Yang. I mean, he comes out. He doesn't play Chinese. He doesn't play necessarily. He is Asian American, but it just goes to show you how things have evolved. Maybe for the good. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Email me. Let me know. Because I'm curious. I'm always defending free speech, which is why I don't like it necessarily when I criticize someone's free speech. But I don't shut them down. I say, hey, look, that Chinese accent you did, not good. All right. The correct response is, well, let's talk about it. Not, I'm going to shut you down. Or the correct response really is, all right, I'll watch something else. I don't have to watch what you're doing. Oh, getting deep here. Getting deep. Anyway, all for free speech. But I just noticed in myself a different reaction. Now that I see Tony Hinchcliffe, Kill Tony blowing up in a good way. Shane Gillis back on SNL. Louis C.K. sells out the Garden. Dave Chappelle doing his thing. Trans, no trans. Comedy's expression. Comedy's free speech. We should all honor that. All right. The rain. Oh, it's raining. I was going to go down to LA today, but people hydroplane. You don't need much to hydroplane and get in accidents. So I'm not, I chose not to go down there and be there in person. And, but it's scary in California because we need the rain. We just don't need it all at once. Someone please tell the man upstairs, please take your finger off the button that says, wet me. But it's going to go on today, Monday through tomorrow, and then it's going to get better. But, every time I go to LA, everything looks so dry and so, yellow, the grass. And it's good that they get rain, but anyway, if you're out there driving, smart. All right, one last thing on my friend Joe Madison. And I remember I talked about this the other day, and that's because Joe and I worked together in 1994 at a radio station, WRC. 98, let's see, was it 98? 89? 980 AM. Oh, the good old days, AM radio. But, Joe was on at noon, and I would always fill in for people who were sick or were on vacation. And there were a couple weeks when I would fill in, I'd do the 9 to 12 spot. Yeah, put the Filipino guy up against Rush Limbaugh. Oh, yeah, we know how well that worked. If I'd killed Rush Limbaugh in the ratings, I'd be syndicated in 400 radio stations. But no, it was one of the first times I was doing talk radio after doing NPR. Enjoy talk radio is the most exhilarating thing, right? With or without callers. And I'd learn a lot from Joe those weeks when I'd get on before him and he'd get on at 12. He was always doing stuff. I mean, he was like living in Philadelphia and driving to Washington. He was always in a tracksuit. But we were friends, but not close enough. And that was my regret. And so I just want to make sure that everyone knows about what a guy Joe Madison was. The New York Times did an obit. Joe Madison, radio host and civil rights activist, dies at 74. Incredible. So 74 is not old. 74 is not old. I mean, but now I know how old I didn't know how old he was. I thought we were just all the same age. But now I see he was older than me. It's like the high school seniors looking at the incoming freshmen, I get it. But you get to a point where, it doesn't matter. Like now, he's 74. He can't look at me as a freshman. Anyway, this is written by Trip Gabriel. Joe Madison, an influential talk radio host with a rumbling musical baritone who interviewed President Barack Obama in the Oval Office and numerous other political leaders in his studio in Washington, D.C., urging them to take action on civil and human rights issues, has died at his home in Washington. He was 74. His family announced the death on Thursday, but did not specify when it occurred. In December, Mr. Madison said in a statement that he was taking leave from his daily show on Sirius XM satellite radio after learning that his prostate cancer had returned. It had been in remission since it was first diagnosed in 2009. This is incredible, right? The coincidence. General Lloyd Austin, his prostate thing, where he didn't tell anyone because, you want to keep things private. But here's the thing about prostate cancer. You do a public service, especially if you are in the public eye, in the media, or if you're a public, a public servant, like the defense secretary, for goodness sakes. And he knew it. He owned up to it and said that he should have come out and used it as a public health learning moment. So, and look at again today. We have King Charles with the cancer diagnosis after going in for some kind of prostate procedure. They didn't say what kind of cancer, but this should be a warning to everyone to go get screened. It's really nothing to get screened, but you'll learn a lot. And the earlier you catch all of this stuff, the better you are. In fact, it's not just early detection. You should also work on being vegan. And I'm saying this as a vegan myself, but knowing that if you put junk in you, you only hurt yourself. And by junk, I mean all the things that people say are good or taste good, but aren't really good for you, but you eat it anyway. Like red meat, like chicken, like fried food, like oil, there are ways to fight diabetes. There's ways to fight prostate cancer, ways to fight breast cancer through diet. And it's not hocus pocus. It's not some kind of, It's not some quackery. Diet works. But in conjunction with advice from your medical professional. But diet generally works. To beat diabetes type 2, to beat prostate cancer, to beat breast cancer, diet will work. Depends on when you catch it and depends on how you implement your plan. So more on the obit. Madison's family announced the death Thursday. Let's see. Mr. Madison was ranked number 6 most important talk host in the country in 2023 by Talkers magazine on its heavy 100 list. Now, Talkers is just a magazine trying to hang on there. Look, if you've been in the radio business, you know Talkers. You know the old Radio and Records. It's an old tabloid industry journal. You know, in terms of nationals, there aren't that many. Not anymore. And Joe was on Sirius XM. The black, he was the Black Eagle. And he was on the Urban Channel. So, as the article says, he was also the highest ranked non-white host. It's a white world. It's a tough thing about media, and we both knew that when we were working together in 94. After my stint at NPR, we were the only minorities doing talk radio. This was 1994. But Joe succeeded. Joe Madison was the voice of a generation, President Biden said in a post on social media. Whether it was a hunger strike for voting rights or his advocacy for anti-lynching legislation that I was proud to sign in 2022, Joe fought hard against injustice. Now, this is the thing about Joe. He was also an activist. Mr. Madison, a former senior official with the NAACP, I think I called him president at one point. He might have been a chapter president, but he was a senior official. Blended on-air social activism with advocacy outside the studio. He participated in a 73-day hunger strike in 2021 to urge Congress to strengthen voting rights laws after Democrats had gained control of the Senate and the White House. On Mr. Madison's show, Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, the new majority leader, pledged to get behind long-stalled anti-lynching legislation because he said black voters had played a crucial role in returning Democrats to power and, quote, we owe them. Schumer said later in a statement, nobody fought harder for his belief than Joe Madison. That's the thing about Joe. I mean, he knew why we were broadcasting. He knew the power of the microphone. He knew the power of talk radio. And, like I said, we're too much into our own thing to come together and really ally and work together. I regret it. He really did combine his activism with his on-air work. He broadcast 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday on the Urban View channel on Sirius XM. He was there exclusively in 2013. For decades before that, he was a fiery personality on 2 Washington AM talk stations, WWRC, that's where we worked, and WOL, where he was known as the judge for fact-checking callers. And WOL was, it was the black radio station, the black talk station. It was the Hughes station. People will call and try to give you misinformation, he told the Washington Post in 2013. Most people get upset out of frustration. They don't like being challenged, but that is how I grew up. People challenge your thought process. Before entering radio in 1980, Mr. Madison was the political director for the NAACP and served on its national board for 14 years. While there, he led a march from Los Angeles to Baltimore to promote voter registration. In 1996, Madison was arrested while leading a protest outside CIA headquarters after repeatedly accusing the agency on his show of contributing to an explosion of crack cocaine use in black communities in the 1980s. The allegations were raised in a series of articles in the San Jose Mercury News. Yeah, Gary Webb. A Michigan Congressman, Representative John Conyers, called into Mr. Madison's show to praise him for raising the issue, but critics said Mr. Madison was spreading a conspiracy theory to black listeners. I don't know. I think Gary Webb wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He was a journalist. A House Intelligence Committee investigation later found no evidence linking the CIA to the epidemic. Well, but there were sales. There were sales being done. In 2015, Mr. Madison remained on the air for 52 straight hours to raise money for the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Now, here's the thing. I didn't know this about Joe. So he's an activist. He was born in Dayton, Ohio. He went to Washington University in St. Louis, graduated in 71. I didn't get there till 78. He was a running back on the football team. God, we had so many things in common. I went to Wash. He was a graduate student. I was a running back on my high school football team. He was a baritone soloist in the campus choir and a DJ on the campus radio station. Well, that's why we love radio. It's that damn campus radio. He was on the Wash U station. I was on WHRB, Cambridge. At 24, he became director of the NAACP's Detroit branch, started a radio career at WXYZ in Detroit. After he moved to Washington, he got a deal with Sirius XM, syndicated his show. He called himself the Black Eagle on the air. I was a friend of Joe before Black Eagle, before he called himself Black Eagle. He was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 2019. His trademark challenge to guests was, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? He'd say. So Joe Madison, like I said, we worked together. We were workmates. I wish we were closer friends. My regret was or is that we weren't nearly as close as we should have been. And I think that's just the problem of you. When you come to a radio station, there is no there at a radio station. There's the studio, you do your show, and then they pretty much kick you out. And you're out of here. All right, I didn't have an office. I came in, did the show. I'd see Joe at that transition point. We'd talk a little bit during the commercials. There was just no place that we can get together. And then times we got together, tried to get together in Maryland, off campus, as it were. But because of our schedules, weekdays, weekends, didn't happen. Then I moved. In 94, I came back to California, and then that was it. We lost touch. And he became the Black Eagle. So anyway, Joe Madison. We remember him, radio host, activist, and a workmate of mine. All right, aldef.org, aaldef.org/blog to get more information on my column. And also, maybe there's time you make it to the New York the New York celebration, Lunar New Year celebration. They're having a reception tonight. Gung Hey Fat Communist, as I like to say, Tom Cotton has inspired us to say that. Check out the column. Understand why I say that. That's it. I like to close with a little meditation. Shall we? A little loving kindness. Hey, some loving kindness goes out to Olivia Rodrigo. I know that you didn't win, but this is where you say, look, I don't need the validation of a Grammy. I'll write a song about losing the Grammy next time, and I'll win. Of course you will. Of course you will. Self-love, that's what you need. Start giving it to others and having it come back. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal